Okay, before I get going, I'm going to have a look at the constructor's guide that they've included in the game. It has a bunch of tips, and we're going to review them before we start building a few of the bridges. I'm only going to read out some of the most interesting ones though. For example, triangles. I think all these bridge building games talk about triangles. In these games they use what we call pin joints, and what that means is that this joint and all these joints are entirely flexible, and the angle between these elements will never be held in place. They'll always be very floppy. So we're going to be using a lot of triangles. It's the only thing we really can use, and later on you'll see me try and use some rigid joint structures and they just collapse straight away. So let's have a look. Arches, yep, arches are all good. There's some nice explanations here. Here it says curving the roadway gives additional support. Now in a truss, the top chord is generally in compression. It's getting pushed together because the whole bridge is trying to bend downwards, and the bottom chord generally is in tension. So if you curve it like this, forming an arch, it negates some of those tensile forces, putting it into compression, so you get a lot more strength out of it. What it does do is it pushes sideways on the supports more than a flat bridge would, but I don't think the game requires us to consider that at all, but in real life you'd need to, and that's one of the reasons why you wouldn't see these on every single bridge. So some reinforcement techniques: 3 struts instead of 1 strut, so pretty much 3 times the strength. Sister supports in struts. That's a really good idea actually, because here we have 1 strut and it has a slenderness to it, so it's thin. The way things tend to break, if it's in compression, this would be getting pushed together, presumably. It has a tendency to buckle outwards. So if you push a ruler between your 2 hands, it will buckle. And that's what this would do. So this is reinforcing that element, giving it a wider area there. So it'd be less prone to any sort of buckling. So that's actually a really good idea. We might be using that later, but the thing is you have to keep the cost down on this, so I don't know about this. It's quite intricate. It will probably raise the cost quite a lot. Okay, and the rest is just standard advice. Alright, let's go. I had to go on this one with my girlfriend earlier, and
You don't have a girlfriend.
she's saying things in the background. Yeah, I had to go with this one on my fictional girlfriend earlier, and it went very well. Completed it, and the type of bridge that she wanted to build was sort of like a ramp going up like this, but the engineer didn't like steep inclines, so he just refuses to walk when it gets to about this point. And I'll draw the bridge again because it was actually quite funny. Naturally, he has a bit of a belly, like engineers do. So this is a bridge that me and my girlfriend built earlier on, and it totally doesn't look good. It's not built to be like a fantastic bridge or anything, but it was just quite funny when we built it and we watched this engineer, and he runs across, and then as soon as he gets to this little ramp over there, he decides to stop walking. He's had enough, he's tired out. And I found it quite funny because I think that this game is taking the mick out of engineers a little bit, because every time he talks on the speech, it's always way over technical, and it just sounds a bit silly, and no one in the office talks like that. But anyway, I just found that quite funny. We're not going to show this bridge anymore. So these are all pin joints, so if I run it now, it's just going to flex and it's going to collapse, just like that. So, a type of bridge that exists is called a Verendil Bridge or something. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Here it is. If you know how to pronounce that word, write it down in the comments, please. But we're going to draw this bridge. And the way it works is that it relies on stiff connections at these joints. So here we go. And the reason you use some of these bridges is because of the aesthetic appearance. It looks quite nice, some people think. But with this sort of game, it's not going to work. I'll show you right now. It's just all going to collapse because you've got no stiffness in the bridge because it's just a pin. But what you can do is, if I adjust the spacing a little bit, you can create a brown truss. So that'd be a lattice truss or a brown truss, and it's got verticals, which you wouldn't really see in a brown truss, but let's have a look how it goes. It's awful. Oh, we've got one bit still standing, and our man broke his legs. Okay, so I wasn't really claiming that this was ever going to work. I was just interested. Let's remove the verticals. It's not going to make it any better, but let's see what happens. Same place. Okay, so we're going to go with the Pratt truss. I design these ones all the time at work. I design them for under pier structures, like in Brighton Pier. I do a lot of the trusses on there. Okay, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. Let's adjust some of the nodes. Alright, that might be as good as I'm going to get it. Maybe this one more over here. But it's a snap 2 grid, so it's a bit difficult to get the alignment I want. I can't get the deck to be straight or anything like that, but we'll go with that for now. And then this is almost done. So the way this particular bridge is going to work when I complete it is the depth of the truss here to here is going to provide the overall strength of the bridge in terms of tensile on the bottom and compressive forces on the top here. The compression force is going to be taken through these diagonals, so a lot of compression down there, a lot of compression down here, and then I want to take the tensile forces by using diagonal struts like this. I've just realised I've done an odd number, so I've got this square in the middle, which I'm going to have to figure out what to do with. I could do one like that, but I'm going to adjust it and get another square in there. Okay, so I've added another square in, and we've got our diagonals on the left pointing towards the centre, we've got our diagonals on the right pointing towards the centre. These would all be in tension, and then the end struts at the top would be in compression. It's difficult to get the slope, and the grid's difficult to snap to, so it's going to take a bit of fiddling around with the arrangement, and it's probably going to fail maybe along this compression strut because it's so steep, but let's have a look how it goes. Everything's failed. I've never designed one of these out of wood, so let's give it a bit more depth. See how that works. I really don't like this strut, but it didn't seem to be the critical mode of failure at the time. It's all in the centre. I don't know, more depth. Still don't like that. Yeah, alright, well, we're going to try another arrangement. Alright, so we'll go with I think it's a Howie truss, where you put the diagonals on the left pointing towards the centre at the top this time over here. And these will be under compression. Now, you'd expect them to be under compression because the force is kind of getting distributed towards the force. The force is getting distributed towards the supports down this way, as opposed to coming back up through here every time like that. So let's see. Alright, same failure, but up here. We're going to go with an underdeck truss now. And we'll go with a Warren type truss, which is where you have the diagonals going like this. Alright, it fails awfully. Let's complete the. Let's increase the depth a little. Okay, so I've rebuilt the truss underneath the bridge, and I think I've got a little bit of a lower score. Let's see how this works. Very red. It seems to hold up fine. Alright, now let's go through, complete the level. Okay, we're going to throw the baby. We will throw our baby like this. Get a bit more interesting. Get into the middle. Let's go. Yes. And the baby's still alive. Great. Alright, we're going to leave it there. I tested out a few bridges. I didn't go crazy with any of them, and some of them worked, some of them didn't. Check in on the next video to watch the next level.